Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of New Canaan on the date of November 2nd, 2020. Just for formality, we'll go over how the meeting works. Your case will be called. You'll present, you'll identify yourselves, and you will present your state or your request to the board. Identify your hardships and the reason for your request. Remember, your hardship cannot be financial in nature, and it runs with the land. The board will then ask you questions, after which you will sit down, which you already are. And then we will give those present an opportunity to speak. Then you will be given an opportunity to answer any questions or sum up your request. The meeting is recorded. And then the board will go into the business session and more discussion. There are 5 voting members on the board, and it takes 4 positive votes to be granted a variance. Does anyone have any questions? I am going to recuse myself from this meeting, from this voting, but I will stay here but mute myself. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. It's John Mahoney. I'm going to sit in for Laura today.
I think I have to appoint John. I'm going to appoint John Mahoney as the chair for this this meeting. So thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. So good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming back. Luke Tastian is one of our regular members. Luke, have you had an opportunity to review the minutes from the last meeting and able to sit in on this one?
Yes.
Terrific, thank you. So seated for the discussion tonight will be myself, Luke Tastian, Ben Bilas, Jessica Carden, and Rich Caratu. And until we go into the business session, everybody, the remaining board members are open to ask questions and whatnot. So with that, Dan, I guess we'll turn it over to you.
Wait, John, we need to take a roll call.
Oh, I apologize.
That's okay.
Lynn, will you take the roll call?
Sure. Edmonds, but you're recused, but you're here.
Here.
Mahoney,
Here.
Bilas,
Here.
Carden,
Here.
Tastian,
Present.
Walsh,
Here.
Caratu,
Here.
and Dull.
Here.
Sorry, I always forget the roll call.
And then, John, you're going to need to read the first item on the agenda as a continued item.
Yes, the first item on, thank you. The first item on the agenda, which is a continuance from the October meeting, is 141 Hemlock Hill Road.
You have to read the whole thing.
Now I got to get it in front of me. I'm sorry.
Oh, do you have it or do you want me to read it?
Pardon?
Do you want me to read it for you?
If you would, that would be helpful. Thank you, Lynn.
Okay, 141 Hemlock Hill Road, zoning variance. Upon application of Daniel Radman, Radman Architects LLC, authorized agent for Matthew and Mariko LeBaron, owners, for a variance of sections 3.5 F1, 3.5 F2, and 3.5 F3 to allow demolition both of the existing freestanding 5-car garage structures, which include a 2-bedroom apartment on the 2nd story, and replaced with a smaller single structure containing a 3-car garage structure with a 2-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor, in order to create a usable garage height and 2nd floor ceiling height, along with a more architecturally appropriate roof slope. We need to elevate the total building height above the 25 feet allowable to a proposed height of 27 feet 4 inches for property in the 2-acre zone. Map 33, block 22, lot 100.
Okay. Can I
Now
turn
we're
it
good.
over to Dan now?
Yes.
Sorry, Dan, for all the false starts. It's my
No
bad.
problem. Thank you, everyone, for joining this evening.
I realize we're the only one on the agenda, so I appreciate your time and listening to the application and to our revisions that we've instituted here to try and get closer to the allowable heights that we had discussed during the last meeting. Just a quick recap. As Lynn had just read through, we have a property. It's a 6+ acre property in the 2-acre zone. We have currently 2 detached structures. One is a 4-car garage. The other is a single-car garage that we are planning. And the 4-car garage has an accessory apartment above, 2-bedroom apartment. And the plan is to demolish both of those, consolidate everything into a single structure, maintain the grandfathered use of the apartment above, and do a 3-car garage below, all with usable ceiling heights, door heights, etc. And we're working up against certain restrictions such as the overall building height and the number of stories. We came to you last month with an application where we were proposing to do a structure where the overall building height was 27 feet 4 inches. That's 2 feet 4 inches over the 25-foot allowable. And after a lot of discussion, granted, our primary hardship here is just trying to create a usable second floor and first floor with the apartment above as an accessory structure. It's limiting in terms of the number of stories. We are trying to use the footprint of the building and not have to limit, since we're reducing the overall size of the garage in terms of coverage, that also reduces the usable area up above. And we're trying to still maintain a 2-bedroom apartment upstairs. That in conjunction with the overall height, trying to maintain some sort of relevancy to the existing main residence in terms of pitch of roof and overall design, that drove us to the initial height of the 27'4". Again, based on last month's comments and commentary, observations and recommendations, we went back and looked at how to reduce the overall height to get closer to the 25-foot allowable. And that was a combination of things from lowering the ceiling height, and again, it was a matter of inches in some cases, lowering the ceiling height by a couple of inches in the garage. Again, we wanted to maintain a usable height on the garage door and the ceiling in the garage space. Also modifying the second floor framing, slightly different structural approach, which was we were able to carve out a few inches there on the structure. And then also modifying the pitch of the second floor roof structure. We had a roof pitch of 10 and 12, and a slightly steeper 6 and 12 on the shed dormer. We've reduced that to a 9 and 12 and 5 and 12, and that in conjunction with lowering some of the eave heights and the overall floor heights, we're able to get the overall height of the structure down to 25 foot 5 inches. So only 5 inches over the allowable. But we feel it's critical not to go shallower on the roof pitch, since it would kind of detract from the overall appearance of the building. And again, we're trying to create some sort of relevancy to the existing structure of the main house. We're still asking for relief on the 1.5 story. We are effectively 2 stories in this case, but again, we have a use that is grandfathered here with the 2-bedroom apartment up above that we're trying to maintain. That's all I've got. Any questions?
So, Dan, the height has changed, but that is, and I don't mean, I just want to be clear, what's changed from our last submission is the height. everything else is the same. Is that correct?
Correct, correct. The footprint and the overall floor areas of both the first and second floor remain the same. It's the height, ceiling heights in conjunction with structural height, in conjunction with roof pitch, all of which led to the lowering of the overall building height.
And could you remind me the coverage? I think we're still over on coverage for an accessory building, but it's going down significantly when you go from 5-car garage to 3-car. What was the reduction?
Correct. Let me see if I can find the exact numbers. The rough numbers, the existing coverage of both structures is a little over 1,600 square feet. And we're going down to 1,130 or 1,140, I believe, overall. And that's over the 1,000 square foot coverage, but we are planning to go to P&Z for a coverage, for a special permit on the coverage allowance there. The reason we stuck with that coverage was twofold. It was, number one, we were trying to accommodate the access, as you can see from the floor plans that are in the package. You could probably get to 1,000 square feet with a 3-car garage, but then you've got the additional square footage necessary for the stair to communicate up to the second floor. And also we were trying to not add a pool house to the property, even though we would be allowed to, by right, to have a second accessory structure of below the 1,000 square feet. The idea was to try and accommodate the storage and the bathroom, which would serve the pool that this garage is adjacent to, into the footprint of the garage. So we're kind of killing two birds with one stone. And that's the reason for the slightly larger footprint and coverage here.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, go ahead, John.
Go ahead, Rich. I was going to invite comments from others.
Okay, so it's Rich Carritu. So just to be clear, so instead of going with if I recall, an additional accessory structure, which would be allowed up to 1,000 square feet, you decided to combine it, but you're over with the one accessory structure. And that's
Correct.
why you need to go to P&Z. Okay.
Correct.
So again, just to be clear, the variance that you are asking for here is primarily the height variance of 5 inches.
Correct.
And the 1.5 stories, they're at 2.
Right,
That's right.
right.
And the building height of 8 feet 1 3/4 and 1 3/8 inches.
Pardon?
Well, your total building height is 5 inches over, but your building height is 8 feet and 1 3/8 inch over, right?
No, building height is instead of being 15 feet allowable, we are at 19 feet 11.
Okay. Oh yeah, you came down from 23. Okay, 19 and 11. So it's the building height is 4 feet 11 and 1/8 inch over.
Correct. And again, that has to do if we had the steeper roof but tried to comply with the 25 feet, we'd be undermining the usable area on the second floor of what we could accommodate for this apartment, because you need to maintain at least a 5-foot minimum head height at the perimeter where the sloping roof comes down to meet a livable space. Hope that makes sense.
I have a question about the, I think they're called the renderings, on the revised renderings, or the
Sure.
exterior elevations, I think, yeah. Could you take me through those? It looks like thought bubbles in the elevation drawing, and it's really small, and so I'm not sure I know what it's.
Oh, thought bubbles. Those are, sorry, those are just my way, or an architectural way of documenting where the changes are on a specific drawing.
Okay.
So we've clouded those as revision 1, which are reflecting ZBA revisions dated 10/15.
Mhm.
So each one is tagged with a star with a triangle 1. And those specific items like the overall building height, the second floor finish, second floor height, the pitch of the roofs, all of those are clouded as being the the elements that have been modified.
Okay.
And you're talking about your plan dated 9/14/20?
That's the original date of the plan. If you look up top above that, there's the revision column, and I have revision date 1 of the revision
Right.
date of 10/15/20, ZBA revisions.
I see that.
9/14/20 is the original drawing issuance date, the original date.
So there was a lot of talk at the last hearing about why you needed these supersized garage doors, and my wife and I built a garage a few years ago and I went out and measured them. Our garage doors are 7 feet high and the ceiling's 7 feet 9 inches high. And they seem adequate to me. We've never had an issue with it. And I don't know, and we only need 9 inches of clearance for the openers. We don't need, the 2 feet or whatever you had.
It depends on the type of garage door. If you have an additional segmented door, like 5 or 6 segments as opposed to 3 or 4, you could use a lower ceiling height. But even as a 7-foot door, that's kind of right at the threshold of many SUVs that are going. I mean, my truck alone without anything on it is 6'10". So that's kind of tight getting in there. And the desire is to have a more usable garage door height, and we're able to accommodate it here.
You're only able to accommodate with a variance though. You're going up. So say if 7 feet's just enough for the garage to fit, how high are these ones? Are these 8 feet or 9 feet?
The doors are 8 feet high.
Yes, the foot difference. Okay. And then how much space is above it?
The ceiling height in the garage is 9'4".
So it's 1 foot 4 inches. So why don't you use a door with an extra segment in it so you can cut that 1 foot 4 inches down and not need a variance?
Because that's not the aesthetic look that we're looking for. I mean,
You're trying to create a hardship here, and
We're-
because you want a door that has 4 bifolding sections as opposed to 5 bifolding sections. That's hard for me to imagine that that's a hardship in the context that we've ever seen as a board before.
Understood. I think it's a reasonable request here in terms of the modifications we've made, and still being able to keep the usability that we're after. We're looking for a 4-inch relief on the overall building height.
But if you needed a door with 5 sections, you wouldn't need any relief on the total building height.
Not according to my garage door supplier, who maintained that I needed a minimum of 15 inches for the proper garage opener to above the head of the door.
Thoughts, questions, comments from any other members of the board?
This
This
sorry.
is Becky Walsh, and I guess I'm just still kind of struggling with what we would put as the hardship.
Can you, this is Ben Bilas, unless you were about to answer that.
I was.
Okay, go ahead.
Again, the hardship here is we're trying to maintain a use on the second floor that's grandfathered. We have an existing 2-bedroom apartment that we're trying to maintain the use of in this rebuilt garage. And in order to get the usable floor area out of that, we need to get certain heights out of it. We've already limited the ceiling height in the bedrooms and in the kitchen of the second story area to 8 feet. There is a taller ceiling in the main area looking over the pool. And I think, as a reasonable ask is 9 foot, or approximately 9 feet for the garage. 9'4" is not out of context with anything that's being built out there today.
Could you perhaps answer or address from when the original 2-bedroom garage structure was first built? Oh, sorry, Jessica Carden. When the original structure that's been grandfathered in was built with the existing roof height or ceiling height within the apartment, has there been any building code changes that would require a higher ceiling height? Or is it just trend with current building?
It was built, I believe the original structure was built in the mid-60s. I don't know the exact year. I can tell you that the existing ceiling height on the second floor is a little over 7 feet. I think it's 7'2" or 3. And the ceiling height in the garage below that apartment is only 7'4". The garage door leading into, and in the previous package from last month, you can see on the renderings, the garage doors leading into the garages below that apartment are only 6'4" high. So they're shorter than some people. And the overall height of that structure is 24'8", I think, or 24'9". So that's the existing structure.
And the existing structure, it is less than 7.5 feet then for the ceiling height in the apartment.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, ceiling height code for residential structures is a minimum of 7.5 feet now.
Correct.
So you did have to, no matter what, to make use of the grandfathered space, build in at least some inches to get to the residential code height required of 7.5 feet.
Correct, on the second floor. And then if you use that rationale, we would have had to raise the first floor to make a usable garage out of it by at least a foot. And here we're talking about a difference between the existing and the current proposed of, I think it's 7 inches or 8 inches difference in height.
Dan,
So,
I'm sorry, Jessica, go ahead.
no, all I was going to say is, I mean, we've all been kind of trying to find what the, hardship here would be, but certainly a change in the code so that they can take advantage of a grandfathered use on the land where they would have to at least add in more height for the residential part of the building and replacement is at least one thing we can point to that is something that has changed.
Jessica, Luke Tashin speaking, but if the code went up to 7 feet 6 inches and they're 5 feet over and they have an 8-foot ceiling, that doesn't get them anywhere because if they comply with the code, they'd be under the total height. If the code went up to—
Luke, they would never, this is Jessica again, they would never be able to comply with it to use the grandfathered space for 2-story structure anyway.
No, but they could stay under the 25 feet. If the second floor wasn't 8 feet ceilings, it was 7'6" ceiling, which is the code. So I don't see how that gets them anywhere. That doesn't get them anywhere because to comply with the code, they could still comply with the zoning.
Well,
If the
that's
code
the best I've got right now. So if anybody else has anything else.
That doesn't get you anywhere because it would get you somewhere if the code required an 8-foot ceiling, but the code doesn't. And if it dropped 6 inches off the ceiling to 7'6", they'd be at 24 feet 11 inches for the total height.
But no matter what, we would still be before you for a modification to the building height, not the total building height, but the regular building height as well as the stories.
Correct.
Because if you try to, you can draw a rationale of cutting inches here or there to satisfy the overall height, but just by virtue of having that use on the second floor and making usable space out of it rather than just a 7'6" ceiling height down the middle of the space, you can't get to this height.
How is building height measured with, I don't know what you call it, but Luke Tashin speaking, with that, it's kind of like a dormer, but bigger off the one side where you have the glass windows facing the pool. Like, does that impact how the building height's measured? Like, without that, would the building height be lower?
Without that element, I'm measuring building height to the primary roof element, midpoint of the primary roof element.
Yeah, so that doesn't impact building height then?
No.
No, I don't think so. Okay. Do they need a hardship if they're making it more compliant? I mean, it's a more compliant when this is done. They're getting 2 structures into one.
Right.
if we were, if they'd agree to condition it on not building the pool house or the other structure. I mean, I've said before, I don't really think you necessarily need to have a hardship if you're making it more compliant.
Well, I mean, I remember, Luke, they're way under on coverage, right?
Yeah,
Way,
so I
way
guess,
under on coverage. So I don't know that. I mean, I get where Dan's argument that this effectively it can be used as a pool house, but they've got 6 acres. It's hard to say they wouldn't build something else.
I don't know what the owner's plans are for the future. We're just working on this particular phase.
Right.
well, I was just trying.
Yeah. I mean, I think though you're right. They are. I mean, it's not really a hardship, but they are reducing the non-compliance in terms of coverage, right? They already, I guess, qualify at the moment for, well, let me ask you, this is John Mahoney. Dan, would you, as currently constructed, is the building with the apartment considered 2 stories?
Yes.
Okay, so we already have a 2-story use, right? So there's kind of no change there, although the size of the 2nd story is growing.
Yes.
Again,
remember the footprints are different. So the original structure, which has the 4-car garage, is somewhere around 1,300 square feet and 1,350 or so on. And 2/3 of that is the 2nd story. In our case, we're effectively the same footprint on the 2nd story as we are on the ground. Actually, no, we're slightly less on the 2nd floor because we're reducing. We don't have those projections of storage areas on the 2nd floor. So instead of 1,160, we're probably closer to 1,000 square feet up on the 2nd floor. So comparing apples to apples, yeah, we're slightly larger on the 2nd floor in terms of the area, but it is the existing structure still has a full 2nd story. There you go.
right.
And it's Rich Caratu. I think when we start getting into the area of coverage, that's going to be a discussion for P&Z. Because I was almost going to start talking about coverage, and that's why they're going to go to P&Z. So I think we could.
Yeah, but I think the thing that they are reducing the coverage, right? Which I think is a good thing.
It is a good thing, but they're not agreeing to limit another structure down the road. I mean, I don't know what P&Z may require them to do, but like Dan said, the owners may decide to do something down the road, right?
But again,
Correct.
coverage in and of itself isn't a problem here, right?
Right.
It's coverage for an accessory structure.
Correct.
And I guess I'm willing to give them some credit for taking a 1,600 square foot structure down to an 1,100 and change square foot structure. That's a significant reduction. Now there are some add backs against that, right?
Right.
I'm not sure on the revised total height, bringing it down 2 feet or thereabouts. I certainly appreciate the effort and thank you, Dan and Ted and the applicant for hearing what we said on that.
Luke Tash speaking, I would think that if they would agree not to put another building on after this, I would think we could say that we're allowing it because it's making the property more conforming.
Well, but Luke, if you wanted to go that way, would you say not another pool house?
Say no other buildings.
Well, but
They have, this is Jessica Cardin. They have so much
We can't do
land.
that.
Well, then I don't
That's-
think we have an argument then that it's becoming more compliant. I'm trying to think of a reason to give it to them.
But you're getting two things conflated here. Number one, I don't think it's the jurisdiction of the ZBA to limit us in terms of the overall coverage of the property, nor the number of structures on the property. But the statement in terms of reduction of coverage, just the observation, is absolutely accurate. We are reducing the overall coverage of the accessory structures down to a single structure and reducing the coverage by 35%.
It's Rich Caratu, but for now, we don't know what they may do in the future. As you said, in my opinion, you're right, Dan. In my opinion, it's not in our jurisdiction to limit. It's a P&Z issue. So, but I just think, we're talking about 5 inches here. Ben and I always have this discussion about being de minimis, but that's something we could talk about later.
This is Jessica Cardin. I think we just need to turn back to, the 5 inches that's being requested for the variance,
Right.
for the total height,
Agreed.
and also what the hardship will be. And, again, the only thing I've been able to turn to and suggest is that, perhaps between both zoning code changing for the 7.5-foot height, which does account for some of the increase, and perhaps just current building trends and standards. I mean, that's not necessarily a hardship, but they are trying to make use of a grandfathered use and doing the best that they can, it would appear, to try to come as close as they can to the 25 feet to make for adjustments. It's a sticky one with this one no matter what, because it's a grandfathered use.
Right. It's Rich Caratu. I think, the hardship here between a 1 and 5 being a really strong hardship and a 1 being a weak, I think this is a 1. However, when you look at the 2 structures there now compared to what the future holds, I mean, I think it's overall, it's a net benefit to the community post, this project happening than how it looks now, but,
This is Becky Walsh. Very much appreciate your coming down from the 27 to the 25. And you said that the current structure is 2 stories, not 1.5.
Correct.
So, John or Lynn, can we say that a 2-story structure could be grandfathered, or, can you carry that forward to another structure?
I'm not sure, what are you asking, Becky?
Well, so there are other variances going from a 1.5 story to 2, correct? Aren't they asking for that?
They're asking from the 1.5 to a 2. It's a, they have an existing, I could pull up the assessor's card right now, but they're, they can't have a 2-story structure. It's 1.5 right now. I bet the way that it was calculated, but I can double check the.
Oh, I
record.
thought you said it was 2 right now.
It's 2
is-
stories, but if you look at the way the house, oh, sorry, I'm not sharing with everyone. I'm just looking at it. Sorry about that. I can pull up the assessor's record to find out, but it looks like it's 2 stories, but it's 1.5 because the full second story isn't on the second floor. It doesn't run over the garage.
I got you.
Right.
I got you. Yeah, okay. All right.
So the increase, Luke Tassin speaking, so increasing non-conformities, they're going from a 1.5-story building to a 2-story building, and they're going from 25, a little under 25 feet to a little over 25 feet.
Well, we're maintaining the existing 2-story structure.
I thought.
We're not going from 1.5 to 2.
I thought Lynn just said it was 1.5 stories. That's what my question
Lynn
was.
said it was 1.5 stories because of the way the assessor calculated it due to the other side of the building being only a single story.
Right, so it's a 1.5 story from the assessor standpoint.
What about from the zoning standpoint?
It's only, well, it's also, it also doesn't go across the entire structure. So the second story is only half a story.
Because of some, this is John Mahoney, because of some average calculation.
I thought, Luke texted me, I thought 1.5, I thought if any of the second floor is a 2-story, it's all a 2-story. I didn't know this halfway across the rule.
So if you look at the picture, there's only a half up here. It's only half of the building. It doesn't follow across the garage.
Well, that's increasing the footprint or the square footage of the second story, but from a height standpoint of whether or not this is a 1.5 story or a 2-story structure, isn't it already a 2-story structure?
I mean, I guess you could argue it either way, but the way it's calculated, the assessor recognizes it as a 1.5 story structure, and that's what we would have recognized it as.
This is Ben. I don't understand that, Lynn. There's obviously a 2-story structure there, part of which is there's a structure, part of which is 2 stories. Why is it assessed as a 1.5, and why would you recommend it to be 1.5?
Well,
Oh, here's the reason.
assessor, sorry.
I think the reason is if you look at the definition of a half story, it says of the main roof of that building, wing excluding any dormers is 50% or less than the attic floor area under that roof. Or of the same roof and any dormers is 60% or less of the attic floor area. So the second floor of this looks, and the architect could answer this. The second floor of this right now is probably less than 50% of the total roof area of the existing structure. If it's less than 60% of it, then it's counted as a half a story. That's on page 34. That's section 2.2.
Can we see, well, looking at this one, there's 2 garage doors. So yeah, it's probably about 50-50.
Yeah, so I'm saying it's probably less than 60%, which is why that counts as a half story under section 2.2.
But if you tear off one bay, now it's 2/3. It's all, and then it becomes a 2-story building because 2/3 of it would have a second floor, right? And that's effectively what they're doing.
John, that's the way I read it. I'm guessing that's why they say it's 1.5 stories now.
Well, I understand that now, right? But what they're asking for, if all they did was they came in and took off the 3rd or the 4th bay, now apply that calculation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That would be 2 stories. I'm guessing when this was originally built, it was built to exactly comply with zoning because it's 24 feet, 11.75 inches high. And you look at all the other things, they're like right at what was allowable. I'm guessing when this was built, someone looked at the rules and just did it to comply. Look at, they're making the building height. The existing building height is 20 feet 9 7/8 inches. That building height on the revised plan is coming down to 19 feet 11 1/8 inches. The total building height is coming from 27 feet 4 inches to 25 feet 5 inches. So while the total building height is going up slightly above the 25 feet that's at right now it's 24 feet 11.75 inches. The building height itself is coming down by a similar amount. So in that aspect, it's kind of becoming more compliant because the building height's coming down significantly. The building height's going from 20 feet 9 7/8 inches to about a foot less, 19 feet 11 1/8 inches. And the total building height is only going up from 24 11.75 inches to 25 feet and 5 inches. So that's only going 5.25 inches. So I think if you look at the two, while the total building height might be going up, the building height is going down. So it's kind of washes out, I guess, if we're looking for it possibly becoming more compliant. And they're going from 1.5 stories to 2 stories. But as John pointed out, if you cut off the 3rd, 4th garage, then there would be a 2-story building. So it doesn't really have a lot of pull here with me because they're making the footprint smaller. So I don't see changing from 1.5 to 2 stories as a huge issue, because that's really how this half-story definition is just working out, that essentially the bigger your footprint is for the first floor keeps you in a half story for the second floor. So if I was going to vote for it, those would be the grounds. I don't see a hardship. I just have a really hard time finding a hardship with needing these oversized garage doors and the 8-foot ceilings and the additional space on top for the doors to open. But I do think you could make an argument that it's as a whole becoming more compliant.
I mean, I get, Lynn, this is John Mahoney. Lynn, question
Yeah.
for you. Is reduction in nonconformity a good enough reason to grant the variance in and of itself?
In what way? Because
Well, as Luke says, the building height is going down, not the total building height, but the average building height is going down. The coverage, the amount of the nonconformity, at least in terms of coverage of the accessory structure, not coverage on the property, but coverage on the accessory structure is going down significantly, as in approximately 35%. Is that enough for us to grant the variance? Because I think everybody is struggling with the strength of the hardship. And
well,
rather,
there's no coverage variance for you guys at all. The coverage is the fact that the building is bigger than 1,000 square feet, and that goes straight to the P&Z. That has nothing to do with ZBA or a dimensional variance or anything. So there's no coverage issue. And
no, I guess, but the fact that they're bringing it in, you know, if I think of the town as a whole, I can't obviously speak for P&Z, but I'm kind of a little bit where Luke is, that they're bringing this building, you know, on balance, more in compliance than it currently is. We're going, you know, smaller coverage, one structure versus 2 structures, you know, is certainly in keeping with the neighborhood and what's going on. We have no coverage issue on the property in total. You know, quite the contrary, there's huge amount of excess coverage. We're just struggling with the fact that this is an accessory structure and what the hardship is for it. But to me, you know, when things are getting overall better, you know, and not a matter of, you know, not necessarily discretionarily better, but better on the numbers, is that not good enough for us to grant a variance?
you guys have to make the determination of whether that's a real hardship or not.
Okay.
No, I don't agree with that. I don't think that you have to establish a hardship if it's the variance is making it more compliant.
Right.
You don't have to have a hardship to make a variance more compliant. If it's more compliant, then they're entitled to a variance without a hardship.
And it's Rich Carey too. I also think, as we had in other meetings, it's the, you know, how much, you know, are they going over the rules? You know, is it significant enough, right? I think there's a judgment call here. You know, they were coming in at 27, they brought it down to 25 and 0.5, or 25 and a half rather. You know, how significant is it? I mean, I think we, again, in my opinion, it's not in the rule book, there's some leeway we have of what's de minimis and what's not. You know, I think there's a judgment factor we all have to get comfortable in our own minds also as to how far are they really stretching.
Okay.
But anyway, John, you know.
Yeah, before
ready.
we move to the business session, I just wanted to be sure, particularly Becky and Cynthia, if you have any questions, because you're going to sit out the voting, and once we go into the business session, we can't take any input from you. I wanted to be sure that there was nothing else you wanted to ask of anybody before we make that move.
This is Becky, and I'm not sure there's anything I really want to ask, but I'm just still trying to figure out, when you say they're bringing it more in compliance, you know, what they have there now are 2 different structures, correct? And those structures individually, are they over on coverage, each one of them? No, probably not,
No,
right?
I mean, this is John Mahoney. I defer to Dan Radman, but my guess is because of one of the two structures is a single garage. My guess is the building that's going to remain, or if you ignored that building, they'd still be over the amount of coverage they'd end up with when they construct the new building.
Correct. The smaller garage, the single smaller garage, it's only about 200 square feet. So the total coverage of both combined structures is in approximately 1,640 square feet. So the larger structure that we're demolishing and replacing, it by itself is approximately 1,450 square feet, and we're reducing that down to 1,140.
Okay, okay, so that by taking that larger structure, taking it down, you're going to be
Yes.
more compliant in that respect. I don't
Yes.
think you wouldn't be more compliant in total building height, right?
Total building height, again, that's the additional 5 inches that we're looking
Right.
for.
Right,
But they're more compliant in building height, not total building height.
yeah. I mean, I understand taking two and making two sort of outdated structures that are grandfathered, and you should, I think, have the ability to have some living quarters, a 2-bedroom apartment above. Like Luke, I still am a little struggling a bit on the ceiling height for the garage structure of it. I think it's a better plan than what's there now. I can't, dispute that. I guess it really, as Jessica said, this is a sticky one. What's the hardship? So,
Lynn, Luke Tashin speaking. Are you allowed under the zoning regulations to have two garages, two detached garages with a zoning permit, or even with a zoning permit, are you only allowed to have one detached garage?
You could have you could have as many accessory structures on your property as your coverage would allow. So the way they set it up, but you guys aren't looking at coverage here, but if
I understand.
it all gets calculated as coverage, not like the number of accessory structures. So you could put your coverage into your principal building, or you could put it into a smaller principal building and 4 accessory structures that are all beyond the setback.
So as long as your garages don't result in parking for more than 5 vehicles, you could have 5 one-car garages.
Essentially, and they also have you can't have 5 in a row. There are a few properties around town where they have detached garages of different numbers, probably built at different times. Most of them are older properties that have historic structures that have converted one to one type of garage, and one is a more modern structure. But there are definitely properties, but yes, there's no limiting factor to the number of garages, except that you can't have more than 5 in a row.
It's John Mahoney. Just
Mhm.
Dan, one last question from me. Is the new structure going to be further away from the property line with the neighbor?
Hang on, let me open the,
Ted says
plan.
yes. Ted is nodding his head yes.
I think it is. I just want to be certain. Hang on.
I think it is, my recollection that
Yes,
it's
it is.
10 feet.
It's the new structure is closer to the primary residence, and based on scale here, we're moving it approximately 15 feet further back from the property line
And pivoting it so
and pivoting it.
so the narrower dimension is what faces the adjacent property.
That's correct.
Thank you.
We're
Rich,
also maintaining that tree line. I'm sorry, it's Ted Seipel. We're maintaining the tree line that shields it both from the neighbor's property and the street property.
That too, correct.
John, Luke Tashin speaking. I don't think that really helps though, because I think that would make a difference if it was within the setback, but the existing one and the new one are both outside the setback. So I don't think that's really
I-
The fact that it counts one way or the other.
No, I think, Luke, though, it's just sort of another, I agree, it's not a hard measure. It's not like we're moving it out of a setback. It just, I think, helps reduce the impact of some of the things we're struggling with.
It's Rich Carity. Just a question again. So it's 6 acres located in a 2-acre zone, Dan?
Correct.
Okay, and just under the discussion, it says the properties, I'm just helping with hardship here. The property is located on a curve along Hemlock Hill and is in front of a parcel and is bordered in the rear of a large body of water.
Mhm.
The western portion of the site straddles flood zone A and flood zone X. And there are also flagged wetlands on the property. So when I read that sentence, it tells me that there's some limitation while there, given that there's 6 acres, you have, if the property didn't border wetlands or flood zones, you may be entitled to build and use all the coverage. But because you have some wetlands and you have some flood zones, you're going to be limited to where you could put structures, correct?
That is true. That is very true.
Okay, so again, I'm just trying to help out here. Maybe a partial hardship, and I underline partial, is because the property may be limited as to additional structures, whether it's a garage, additional that you otherwise would have been entitled to because of the wetlands or flood waters or large body of water adjacent to the property. You're trying to fit as much as you can into the structure to comply with the coverage and comply with, the height as best as you can.
Correct.
This is Jessica Carden. I think, Rich, that is a great argument if they were asking for a setback or something. But right now with the height, usually the only thing we can look to is a topographic type
Yeah,
of situation where, they have to kind of grade it out in a way where it exceeds a height marginally, because that's the only way they can sort of level it out, because they're accommodating for an extra lower level height or something to even things out. I mean, that's why, unless anybody else has a better idea, the only thing I could look to was increasing the code ceiling height with the apartment for the grandfathered use.
Right.
I personally don't know of any. I looked up to see if there were any code changes with respect to the garage height, and I didn't see anything that would have impacted them there. So obviously we're all struggling with an aesthetic choice in the design that is over code, hence the request for a variance.
Okay. Rich Carriage again. One other question, Dan. So you're 5 inches above, right? And nothing you could do with grading around the property, around the foundation of this garage where it's measured to come in compliance?
It's fairly level all the way around. We will be grading around it, but it is a fairly level portion of the lot in that area.
Okay.
Luke Tashin, I have a question. Which one of the plans shows, I see all the ones with the existing garage on it, but where does it show, which plan on the website shows where the location of the new garage relative to the old one?
Do you have the package from last month?
Yes, I have like 15 windows open now.
Drawing SP 101.
Which tab is that under?
Let's see, it was
On the
may have
website.
been- Oh, I'm not looking at the website. Sorry, I'm just looking at my files.
Guys,
Oh.
it's like, if we pull up the picture of the existing garages, you'll see the orange cones and orange paint on the pictures of those existing garages. We're actually coming a little bit closer than those garages. That was location, the first location we tried to put the garages. We actually moved it a little bit closer to the house. I'm not sure if that helps you, Luke, or not.
No, what I'm saying is there's usually a survey that shows, the existing garage and the new location superimposed on it. I'm not seeing that in all these different
Luke,
tabs.
under architectural drawings, ARCHDWGS.PDF, that's,
Yeah, if you look there. Yeah, the last page of that package.
that's the sheet that Dan just referred to.
Do you have that, Luke?
And
Yeah, I have it.
So,
Okay.
so on that sheet, you can see the footprint of the new garage. There you go.
Yeah.
Footprint
Yeah, I
of the
see
new garage. And then where the words limit of scope for ZBA application, you can see an angled light gray line. I'm actually pointing to it, says existing edge of garage. That light gray line represents the footprint of the large structure, the large garage. The smaller one kind of got obliterated underneath the under the pool rendering and the pool drawing under there, but you can see the footprint of the larger structure that we're replacing.
Both of these, Luke Tashin speaking, both of these garages are in the front yard of the property, right? Isn't there some a zoning requirement on having your garage in the front of a property? It has to be so many feet from the front property line then, Lynn?
The 150-foot line that you're referring to is the arced line drawn in there.
Okay,
That radius that goes through the auto court. We're outside of that line.
so the existing one was too, because I was trying to think if the other one was in that and you're moving it closer this way, that would be making it more compliant, but they're both outside of that line.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Sorry. Thanks for trying.
okay, has everybody had a chance to answer their, well, I guess before we do that, just as a matter for the record, is there anybody here that wants to speak in favor of the application? Anybody who wants to speak against the application?
John, just for the record, there is no one at this meeting from the public other than the members of the board and the applicant's representatives. So,
Thank you, Lynn. To the board members, any other questions of the applicant before we go into business session? Okay, Dan and Ted, anything else you'd like to add?
Just thank everyone for their time. I'm hoping that the modifications we've made since last time to bring it into as close to compliant as possible will be enough to get us over the goal line.
Thank you. Okay, without objection, I'd like to move us into the business session. Any further discussion from the board members?
I'd move to allow it. I feel like this horse has been beaten. It's been dead since last month.
I'm sorry, what did you say? This is Ben. What did you say, Luke?
Yeah.
I'd make a motion to allow it. I don't need to hear any more discussion.
Anybody else?
This is Ben. We're 5 inches over the total building height, and that's the one request. And we've got a 2-story instead of a 1.5-story building. And we all agree on a 6-acre piece of property, this doesn't amount to much. It's not in any way inconsistent with the purposes of the regulations, which is the overarching criterion for granting a variance. Further, principally, it's supposed to find a hardship, but the granting of the variance can't be inconsistent with the general purpose of the regulations. I think it's consistent, and I'm prepared to say there's a hardship built in from the grandfathered position of the apartment.
I wouldn't, Luke Tashin speaking, I wouldn't move on that grounds. I'd move to allow it in that it's becoming more compliant. I don't think you're going to find a hardship here. Because you could build a new apartment that complies with the zoning and everything now and the building code and this and that and stay under it. I think that the real issue is that they're making it more compliant. I mean, it's 6 acres, it's consistent with zoning, and it's going to be more compliant after than before.
Right, and why not also say that there's a hardship due to
I-
the existing grandfathered apartment.
Because I don't see one there. Because they could comply with the building code and everything now and still build a 2-story with the garage underneath it. I think it's not required. I think
I
think it's more compliant after it.
right.
Right.
Yeah, this Rich Caratu, I think we could say for the record, they came last month at 27 and 4 inches high. Based on discussion with the committee, they came down to 25 and 5 inches. You have 6 acres with, on a 2-acre zoning. That if I owned the property in front of this, on both sides of it, the aesthetics of the property are going to be far more appealing after this project than before. Overall, it's, maybe it's a little bit more than de minimis. So I would be in favor of allowing the project to go forward.
Okay, Luke, do you want to, I don't really have anything more to add than I've had over
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
over the last 2 meetings. I guess that, I'm like everybody else really struggling with the hardship. I don't have a problem, particularly given the change that's been made to the total building height. I don't have a problem with the ask. And
I'll make a motion.
okay, Luke,
I'd move that in light of it being a 6-acre parcel and they're moving from 2 structures to 1 structure, the coverage being reduced and the building height coming down from the existing 20 feet and 9 7/8 inches to 19 feet 11 1/8 inches. We allow the variance for the total building height to 25 feet 5 inches, which reflects them already making a concession from the original 27 feet 4 inches. And that we allow the second floor to count as a 2nd story as opposed to a 1/2 a story. That's my motion.
I'm sorry, Ben.
I second that motion.
Okay, Rich, would you like to start the voting?
Yes, I vote to allow it's Rich Caratu, and I vote to allow the variance.
Jessica? Jessica, would you like to go next?
Sure. Jessica Cardin in favor of the variance.
Ben?
Eylis in favor.
Mahoney in favor. Luke?
Tashin in favor.
Thank you very much, Dan and Ted. The variance has been granted. We very much appreciate the work he did since the last meeting. I think that went a long way to carrying the day. And look forward to seeing how it turns out.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time on this.
Appreciate it.
Aye.
Okay, we have to
Have a
go
good night.
the minutes from the last meeting. And Lynn, I had
One change?
pardon?
One change for the minutes? from the last meeting?
Yeah, I had maybe 2 changes. First of all, where are the minutes? I can't find them now. Shoot.
Here, I'll pull them up. 1 second.
2 things. First of all, I was seated for Laura. So when it said that Laura opened the meeting, it was me.
Yeah, oh, sorry. But, oh, sorry. You're right.
Right. And then the second thing, I think it said on there, again, I don't have it in front of me.
Wait, I'm gonna pull it up.
Okay. I'm sorry, could you expand, zoom in a bit?
You have to go back to the calendar, John. And the calendar has the draft minutes of October 5th.
Oh, I got you. Thank you, Ben. It takes a village. It says, under, let's see, hang on. On, the Silver Mine, Road one, right
Okay.
after it talks about what the application is, it says the public hearing was closed. I think the public hearing, that line should be further down.
Okay, we can move it down.
That way it's also consistent with the other ones where it's closer to the, the discussion. Excuse me.
Okay,
Ben always has something. I'll defer to him. Those were the only two I had.
These are beautiful minutes, clean.
Oh.
thank you for that.
As always, I should add.
Do you have any corrections?
No, nothing.
Really?
Really?
Lynn, you can tell your kids you got a gold star today.
Well, if you want me to say something.
No, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Oh, hey, do we have the quorum to approve the minutes from the prior?
From the July 6th, we
Yeah.
should, because we have a full house now, and we were missing Jeannie Roselle because she's left the board. So now we should be able to make it, I believe. With Laura, were you here on July 6th of
Can you
2020?
unmute her, Lynn?
Yes,
Oh,
yes, I was there.
and Jessica, were you there or no?
Think so. I haven't gone anywhere for 8 months, so.
You sound like Luke now, Jessica.
I'm really starting to burn out of this like whole work from home thing. It's fun at first, but seeing I think I'm gonna be doing this till next April, and the only human beings I see are my wife and son, it kind of gets long.
You get to see all of us once a month.
This doesn't count. I need to see like another human being. I mean, I go to the grocery store and cross paths with someone. I'm like, wow, a human exists out there.
We could have a meeting outdoor. Well, it's too late in the year, I guess, but we could have done outdoors.
You got the Exchange Club tomorrow night, Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go there.
All right, so,
That's it.
all right, you have something to look forward to. Come on.
Yeah,
haven't
we're
gotten-
gonna be virtual for a while, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have the, what do we need to do, Lynn, to do the minutes for that meeting? I don't think I was at that meeting, so.
Yeah, I was not.
I will move to approve the
So,
minutes of July 6th.
These were, oh, no, I was at this meeting.
you were there.
This was the one with Grace Farms.
yes, it was.
Oh, yeah.
So if we could approve them, it would actually be great because we're completing the return of record right now because it's going to court. So
Woo-hoo.
I'd move that we approve them.
who is that?
Second.
Was that Luke?
Yeah, Luke Tastian.
I'll second Jessica Carden.
All those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Lynn, Laura, I overstepped my bound.
No, aren't you still the chair?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Right.
Just for the record, you need to do a roll call vote. Sorry.
I don't think I was at that meeting, so I can't say I'm in favor, right?
No.
No,
Tastian.
But
in
we have
favor.
enough. We have enough of everybody. That was if we've got Jessica, Luke,
Everybody
Ben,
say.
John, and Laura.
so Laura,
Aye, in favor.
Jessica,
Jessica Carden, aye.
Luke,
Tastian in favor.
Ben,
Eyeless in favor.
Mahoney in favor.
Thank you.
I did remember something tonight.
Huh.
Do you want to vote on the minutes of last month also?
Oh, well, I thought that's what we just did, didn't
I
we?
thought he just did that.
July.
The comments, but who is the vote? What was the?
Well, the vote is me, Ben, Jessica, Becky, and
And who made the motion and who seconded?
I don't think you voted on those minutes.
I don't think we
You
did.
just commented on the changes, I think.
Okay. I
I'll
can make a
I can
motion.
make a motion. Doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Carden makes a motion to approve the October minutes with the 2 corrections that John Mahoney proposed to Lynn.
I second. That's Becky Walsh.
Seconded by Becky Rich. You want to start again?
I vote to approve those minutes.
Ben,
Bylas in favor.
Mahoney in favor. Jessica
Carden in favor.
and Becky.
Walsh
Bring
in
it home.
favor. Walsh in favor.
Terrific. Okay, Lynn, I think that's it. So we can wrap up the October or November 2nd meeting. Everybody
We
remember
can.
to vote tomorrow if you haven't already.
Yes.
Lynn, are we going to have any applications for December?
I don't believe there are any actually right now in the office. So unless someone comes in tomorrow with a surprise application, I don't know if we're gonna actually have a meeting in
Wow.
December. So,
Okay.
yeah,
So
That's
Lee,
where
there are
Ken-
no in-person meetings in town hall. It's all by Zoom, P and Z and wetlands and,
yes. And there was just an email, I think Laura, you were on the email that was
Yes.
sent out to all the chairs and town hall staff. That there was an executive order on October 22nd that Governor Lamont addressed hybrid meetings where, you know, half the board is in person and the other half is remote. The town isn't choosing to go that route. They're going 100% Zoom until at least February 9th when the pandemic order is either extended or expires. So until February 9th, at the very least, the town is going to be on virtual only for all public meetings.
Well, and given what's going on in the neighboring towns, and I think Lamont just rolled certain things back today.
yeah.
He rolled the state back today. He was watching it this evening, and he's not doing it by zones anymore. He said that wasn't working, and he rolled the state back.
It makes sense.
It'll be phase 2 effective Friday.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's everyone, not just Stanford and Norwalk. And
It really just impacts just interior capacity and size of meetings. That's really an in-person meeting.
What about bars and restaurants and stuff?
Yeah, so restaurants will roll it back from, sorry, I read all this stuff for work recently. So they roll back from 75% interior capacity to 50%. And meeting size, so interior group gatherings, outdoor group gatherings would be rolled back in size as well.
But was
we
that-
no more than 8.
Yeah, no more than 8 can sit at a restaurant table inside. But if, you know, only went to phase 3 and like a month ago. So
October 8th.
basically, whatever you lived with for like August and September, that's kind of what we're going back to.
And restaurants have to close at 9:30.
Right.
9:30, yeah, and they would recommend that people stay off the road. I think it's between like 10 and 6. They want us to
10
stay
and
at home
5.
or something, or 10 and 5, yeah.
Why? This is worse in the dark.
No,
They just want to get rid of people hanging out on the streets,
I-
congregating.
that's to deal with the high school crowd that's going to parties and Halloween and stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's all the college kids returning home. That's,
Yeah,
that's really what it's geared toward. If it's any sense of what's going to happen in my household, it's the kids coming home from college. That's going to be the big influx.
That's part of it, but I certainly don't go into town on a Wednesday these days. That's when I think it's all e-learning in the schools right now. And the kids, you know, they're rightfully pretty frustrated wearing masks all day. They come off. So, if you're worried about, you know, your own situation, it's probably just safer to not go into town on Wednesdays. But.
Luke, you have a long way off to worry about keeping a 19-year-old in a house all day long.
I would rather have. I mean, at least a 19-year-old can occupy themselves. My problem is, as soon as I lose daycare, I'm unable to work again. Basically, it's a disaster. I mean, my 3-year-old son can't entertain himself for 10 minutes.
No, I know.
well, okay, I think we're done.
Okay.
Everybody vote tomorrow if you haven't already. And hopefully we'll have a decision soon. I'm sick of the whole thing.
I'd move to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Luke.
Happy
You're up, Luke.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Too.
Becky?
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, if we don't see each other.
Oh.
Take care,
Happy
everybody.
holidays.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.